Welcome to Subtext and Discourse. I'm your host, Michael Dooney. I don't like adding a date to these episodes, but given the current circumstances, I think it's worth noting that today is Monday, 30th of March, 2020. Like most, I'm still struggling to comprehend how much the world has changed since I recorded this last interview only 4 weeks ago. On the 28th of February, I met up with Berlin-based curator and author Lena Fließbach, not only to learn about her journey in the art world, but to hear more about her latest exhibition, Zero Waste, at the Museum of Visual Arts in Leipzig. The exhibition was scheduled to open last Thursday, on the 26th of March. However, like all events and public gatherings, it has been postponed until further notice. This exhibition is of particular relevance as it showcases artists addressing themes such as sustainability, globalisation, and industrialised animal agriculture, which, whether we like it or not, are going to have to contend with. So without giving everything away, I hope you enjoy listening to my conversation with Lena.
Yeah, but I think we met in the gallery and then we met on different occasions in the art scene.
Maybe it was before you did the Schaufenster show.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you did the show in Charlottenburg at that person's house with all the photography.
Oh, have you been there?
Yeah.
This is Hannah's house.
Really? Oh, okay.
That's maybe where we met together. I invited you to that because, of course.
That was much
okay,
later.
that was like a private show. That was one of the projects Hannah and me we did together.
Yeah.
It's true that there were a lot of photographers involved also.
Yeah. That must be why then. I guess that's the link that we've had initially was through photography. But then we've kind of both branching into different things.
Yeah.
The main reason I wanted to meet up to talk was the Zero Waste exhibition that you have coming up at the Fine Art Museum in Leipzig.
Yeah, it's the Museum of Fine Arts, Museum der Bildenden Künste in Leipzig. And it's a huge museum. I think at the moment they have 16 exhibitions running parallel from the Middle Ages, Impressionism, and also contemporary art. Definitely for me and Hannah, it's the biggest show we ever curated.
Well, maybe we can like how they do in a movie and they show the end and then they go back to the beginning.
Okay.
Because you're quite even to think to get to that point, because you don't work for the museum, you're essentially you're an independent curator. And I imagine a lot of curators when they're at university or when they're studying or when they get into the field, that's a dream exhibition to have. You didn't start at that point. Were you an artist before?
No, I was never an artist. I studied art history. Quite classic. But and then already during my studies I started to organize exhibitions and to make contacts with the art school, some artists, some other people who wanted to do some art projects, and we just started to experiment and try out things. Kind of.
Was this in Berlin?
In Berlin, yes. I studied at the Freie Universität in Dahlem. And I think I had 1 or 2 courses in the university where we connected with the art schools. And this was really helpful, you know. For example, there was one course, us, the art history students, we wrote some texts for an exhibition of the students of the Bison Art School. I'm still friends with some of them. You know, those connections, they were really helpful because basically the art history, it's more conservative, more classic. It's more
it's art history, not future. Like
of course, most of the people who study art history, they end up, for example, as a professor or art historian somewhere. And what I'm doing now, working as an independent curator in contemporary art, is a little bit different because, for example, in the university at this moment, we didn't have any professor who was specialized in contemporary art.
Really?
Yeah. Just in the end, in my last year, one professor came to our university. And of course, in Berlin, it's more easy because you can also visit classes at the Humboldt University. You can go to the UDK, University of Arts, and you are more flexible. You can visit all the museums or the exhibitions. But still, nobody told me, okay, you can be an independent curator with this whole studies, you know?
Yeah, I never really thought of
of it like that, because if somebody goes to study geography, it's pretty much assumed you're going to be a geography teacher. And I guess if you're doing art history, you're working for a museum in the archives and looking after existing material. But in terms of looking towards what's either happening currently or what's going to happen, maybe that's why there's been a bit of an influx in curatorial studies, because before there weren't really courses just dedicated to curating, whereas now there are. So from that point, the context of photography. Oh, actually, before that, you went to Spain as well to study.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it was in 2005, 2006. I did my Erasmus year in Spain. And I lived in Granada. You know, have you been to Granada? It's the city in the south of Spain, in Andalusia, and where the Alhambra is. It's a very special city, and I really love to live there, to be there. I traveled to Morocco and traveled also to other cities in the south of Spain. There's also Cordoba, Sevilla, like a lot of cities with cultural heritage. And I also learned Spanish. I mean, I could speak a little bit Spanish before, but then...
when you're immersed.
Yeah, because also the accent in the south of Spain is very, very strong. So it's a little bit like if you would come to Austria and try to learn German, you know? So I was very proud when I could understand the people. And it was really nice to learn another language. And
I guess maybe not from a educational or studying point of view, but personally maybe it had quite an impact on you, like living and working there or studying.
Definitely. I mean, it was a totally different experience for me because I come from Hamburg, which is quite a big city. And then I lived in Berlin. And I mean, you also live in Berlin. You know what it's like. You always need at least half an hour to meet up someone to go somewhere. And in Granada, you can walk everywhere. I was walking to the university and to meet up with friends, or actually I enjoyed also the weather.
Yeah.
It is hot, but Granada is also close to the mountains. So you can, if you want, you can ski and swim in the sea on the same day.
I didn't know there was skiing in Spain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Personally, I think it's very nice to just live in different parts of the world and to meet other people. And I still have loads of connections to Spain.
So I'm trying to piece together what part of your early education or your studies it would have been, but your thesis was on street photography. So was the interest in photography prior to you starting the art history, or that happened during?
Yeah, I think I had some classes at university in the history of photography, and then in the end also 1 or 2 classes about contemporary photography. And I started more and more to visit exhibitions and to meet up with artists. And I was very interested in photography at that moment. And so I decided to write my thesis about it, because I think it's the best what you can do is to write about something what you really like. So my thesis was about aspects of staging in contemporary street photography. I wrote also about the history of street photography. And then I wrote about 3 photographers, Tobias Siloni, Philipp Lorca di Corsia, and Beat Streuli. It was in 2010.
Okay.
So it's already 10 years ago. But
is it from that you ended up working for the Women Donata vendors?
Yeah, actually, yes, I finished my studies. And then 1 week later, I think I started my first job for Women Donata vendors.
Oh, wow. You just applied, or they...
I just applied.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew one of the colleagues who worked there. It was like a friend of mine who was also a photographer. He told me about it because a friend of another friend was working there, and then I applied. Wim has a production company for his movies, but also another small company which is focused on the whole archive of Donata vendors and Wim vendors, the whole photography archive. And
that's their personal photography?
It's their personal photography, like all the negatives, all the projects. You somehow have to archive it or organize a structure that you find the images again. And we also organized exhibitions. For example, when they publish photographs in magazines or books, We organized also some book projects, or also when people wanted to buy a photograph.
Oh, like the licensing and things like that.
The license, yes.
So comparing that experience to when you studied art history, the archival aspect of it would have been what you would have done during university, but everything else, I assume, would have been new almost.
Yeah, it was new. Yeah, it was definitely new, but it was great to learn everything there because, this company, it's very small. We were only like 2 people. So it was very nice for me to work with photographers which have amazing work, Wim and also Donata, also to organize exhibitions in professional art galleries. I wasn't the curator, but I helped to organize everything and I learned a lot.
And then after that, is that when you went to Term?
After that, I went to
Gallery im Turm. Yeah, so Gallery in the Tower.
Gallery in the Tower, yeah. Gallery im Turm, yeah. Gallery in the Tower.
I always get it confused if it's Frankfurter Tor or Frankfurter Allee.
Frankfurter Tor, yeah. I mean, Frankfurter Allee is close to there, but Frankfurter Tor is the...
Warschauer Straße, the intersection to Kreuzberg.
Exactly.
And so would you say that that was your first curatorial experience?
I organized some exhibitions before during my studies, but it was the first time I really had a space where I could try everything out and experiment and organize exhibitions. And the Galerie im Turm, the gallerist retired and he was there for like loads of years. And then they started a new concept. And the concept is it's like a trainee program or something like that.
That's the impression that I got. Because it's also connected to the Kunstraum or Kunsthaus Bethanien or something. Yeah.
The Kunstraum Kreuzberg, Bethanien, Stefan Bauer, he came up with the idea to make a trainee program, which means that for 2 years, there's always a curator or a team, and they can basically do whatever they want with the space for 2 years. And then another curator starts to work there. And I was actually the first one in this program.
Wow.
I mean, it wasn't that easy also because the people who came there, they weren't used to something different.
Oh, so before that, it was I guess, an official gallery.
I mean, it's not a commercial gallery. I have to say, it's a, how do you say, communal gallery, municipal gallery? How do you say that?
I mean, people say a non-for-profit space or if it's a project room. But
no, it's not.
No real clear
it's
definition.
From the city. It's financed by the...
Maybe it is a communal gallery.
Communal gallery, I think, because it's financed by Friedrichshain-Kreuzberg. So that's a huge difference, of course, because you don't have to think about if you can sell the works or anything. You can just focus on the art or the artist that you're interested in. For me, it was amazing to be there because I had the possibility to organize exhibitions and for 2 years to have a space. I had a very small budget. I think I organized 8 exhibitions the year, so it was quite ambitious. Yeah. And also some projects in the public space before in front of the gallery and also events like performances, lectures, things like that.
What year was this?
2011 and 12.
11 and 12. I mean, there's a good chance that I went to some of these without realizing.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Yeah, because I mean, it's very close. I live near there, so
yeah, sure.
I'd probably have been a few times. I mean, the area's changed quite a bit now because there used to be a lot of galleries along Karl Marx Allee, but they've all turned into furniture shops or real estate agents.
I know, it has changed.
Once you'd finished the 2 years of the program in Gallery im Turm, what happened next?
Yeah, actually, I decided to be an independent curator afterwards. Yeah, I started my own company. That was the next step. So, and of course, always it has its advantages and disadvantages. You also know that, but I really like it. Sometimes also institutions come up to me and ask me if I would like to curate a show or write a text or do a workshop.
So is it then, as an independent curator, what is involved? You're writing texts, you're obviously putting exhibitions together, but are people approaching you? Is it like any kind of independent work where you're always trying to find the next project?
Usually, I think it is like every kind of independent work. You're always like involved in something, you know, and you are working on a project, but you always have to think about a little bit what comes next, you know, of course, because you need the money. I mean, it's like that. And I think it's a mixture of people or institutions asking me if I would like to do a job, and then sometimes also I don't have the time because I'm involved in something, or I have the time and then I can do it, and I'm working on my own concept. projects, my own exhibitions, my ideas. I think as an independent curator, you work on a lot of ideas, and I have so many projects on my desk which haven't been realized yet, for example.
Yeah.
Because you always need some funding, you always need an institution, you need partners to cooperate with.
You, I think, briefly mentioned, not today, but we spoke before, that you were working for the Hamburger Bahnhof for a while, the Museum of Contemporary Art in Berlin.
Mm-hmm. That was in 2017, 2018. They had this exhibition, Hello World. There, it was actually compromised by a lot of exhibitions, and it was maybe the first time one project was shown in the whole Hamburger Bahnhof, like in every space. They started a lot of years in advance, but I only worked 1 year or 1.5 years for them. And I actually worked for the educational program, but we also organized one part of the exhibition, and we also organized an event program. And that's what I did several times before, also with my colleague, Hanna Beckmann-Agetta.
Okay.
I think in 2014, Hanna and me, we had our first project together, and it was the event program for the graduate exhibition of the art school Weißensee.
Weißensee. Oh, you mentioned Weißensee before when you were at the Freie Universität.
Yeah.
So the Weißensee school, they invited you back, or you approached them?
Yeah, I think it was just like I spoke to some friends who studied still at the art school, and they said, oh yeah, we are looking for someone. And it was funny because Hanna at the same time spoke to other friends, and they told her the same. And at the same time, we started meeting up and exchanging our experiences. And
you didn't know each other before then?
Yeah, it was the same time we started to know each other better. Like we know each other from the art scene, but we started to talk more on some openings, and we already had said, oh yeah, we could do a project together, and it was really funny because then it was obvious, okay, let's do it together, and cool. From then on, we did several projects together.
Do you still work independently, or you mostly work together with Hanna on your exhibitions?
I think our own concepts, like own ideas, we do mainly together, not all of them, but mainly. And I did some jobs on my own. For the Hamburger Bahnhof, for example, of course, we developed the program, we developed the space together with Susanne Weiss and Daniela Bistron. But it was also a job. For example, for the Museum of Fine Arts, now the Zero Waste exhibition, it's different because it was my idea, and Hanna and me, we developed the concept together and everything from the beginning.
I guess you're like Lennon and McCartney. Both of your names are on there. It's maybe less common that you would have a pair of curators. You'd have two people working together. Like, how is it in your experience? Is it mostly curators like, no, it's my vision, I want to do this? Or you will have groups of people collaborating?
Oh, I'm sure it's difficult to find people to work with, and it really works very well. I think I'm very lucky that I found Hanna and we can work together that well. And I think that it's so great to have an exchange. When we talk about our plans and our concepts, so many ideas come up.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, absolutely.
I have a lot of friends, for example, who are not in the art scene. And of course, I have also a lot of friends in the art scene, but I don't talk to them like every day, And I think it's very, very
fruchtbar. Fruitful?
Yeah, maybe.
Fruitful,
like
fruitful.
A lot of ideas come up, and it's also nice to have a person who can continue to work when you have, for example, another job or something,
No, that must be good.
So it's very helpful, and it's fun for me. We even write texts together.
Yeah?
Yeah, for us, it's fun. For example, now our exhibition for the Museum of Fine Arts, it's a lot of work, of course. And it's also nice to share and,
I think even if I think about my own experience within the curative communities, running the gallery or with doing music, because it is such an intense exercise, having another person to exchange or to debrief with or to get feedback from is hugely beneficial. I think it can be really underestimated how helpful it can be And like you mentioned before, with new ideas being generated, definitely from my own experience, that when you've got two people working together, where one person puts an idea forward and that other person reacts off that idea, then you get a new idea from the exchange that neither of you would have developed by yourself.
Definitely. And of course, you have also the communication with the artists. We develop also a lot of ideas and our concepts when we make the studio visits and when we talk to artists or to other people in the art scene. But it's something different when you work that closely together, you know, and you can really speak about some details, you know, that other people maybe are not that interested, like in every detail, you know. And
was there a specific project over the past few years that was a really defining moment for you? I mean, I'd say for both of you, but I guess Hannah isn't here.
Well, I think our exhibition in Vienna in 2016.
Yeah.
We organized an exhibition together at Kunsthalle Exnergasse in Vienna. And so this was the biggest project until then. It was a group show called The Impossibility of Being.
Was that the first international one?
It was the first exhibition outside of Berlin, but it was mostly with artists from Berlin, I think.
But still, like
it was in Vienna, of course.
Uncharted territory.
Definitely. It makes such a big difference. I mean, only the transport, for example, you have to organize that all the artworks somehow will be there and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
well, and to bring them back as well.
Yeah, it's something else then. But this was definitely a great experience already 4 years ago. Hannah and me, we both have families now, and it's also nice to have someone you can rely on when you, for example, just got a baby or something. You know? Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice. So with the current exhibition that opens is it opening in March?
Yes, the 26th of March
26th
is the
of March.
opening. It's very soon.
Yes. How many years or what was I've lost all my words this morning, the planning process for that one?
So Hannah and me, as I said before, we have like loads of projects on our desk and loads of projects we are kind of like working on or have in our minds. And sometimes we just have lunch together and speak about the ideas we have. Yeah. And then we decide on which ideas we want to focus and which ideas we really want to try to get the money for and to find an institution and things like that. And actually, I came up with this zero waste idea because in my private life, I try to live more kind of this minimalism lifestyle, you know, and it's always a few years ago, you know, and I started to consume less, try to avoid packages, and I live vegetarian and things like that, you know, and just to be a little bit more responsible in my consumer behavior. I always had the vision as a curator to have also a political or social impact. I knew that I would love to do something which could really inspire other institutions or, you know, maybe to change really something.
Yeah, definitely.
So I came up with this idea. It was just an initial idea in the beginning. And then Hannah and me, we already knew a lot of artists who were working on topics like sustainability. We knew also some artists who just have, for example, one work which could fit in the concept. And then we just started to speak with people, to visit some artists in their studio, to look at artworks, to speak about potential site-specific works, things like that. And we tried to get a funding. And it was actually the first time we had first the money and then we started to find an institution, a location. So we presented our first concept to the Umweltbundesamt, the German Environment Agency, and they liked it. But, you know, you have to imagine it's all like a very, very long process.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We started 2.5 years ago. So it was long before the Fridays for Future movement and long before those topics of sustainability. They are really like high fashion now, kind of. And it was before that. It's a long process to get the money, to find a location.
Yeah.
And things like that.
I guess audiences maybe don't realize that sometimes. Like they might think, oh, the Fine Art Museum's on trend. No, we started planning this exhibition 3 years ago.
I know. Definitely, yeah. In 2019, we suddenly thought, oh my God, now like everyone is talking about the subject. Okay, what do we do? But then we decided
that must be good though, surely.
Exactly. We decided to like it. And we said, okay, I mean, it's good, because that's what we want, actually, that everyone is talking about it, that maybe there are some other shows, with also like similar topics, but that's what we want because we want the change in the world, and we want people to talk about the environment and the relationship of the culture and nature. And so it's the best what can happen.
Absolutely. Just as a side note, then, do you think not just artists, but then curators have a social responsibility to try to make people aware of topics such as sustainability and the environment?
Well, I think you definitely have a responsibility also as a curator and as an artist. I think also that art is like a catalyst, and exhibitions can be like a catalyst and can make a change, definitely, because we create a space where people come together, where people talk about different topics. I think it definitely can make a change, and I feel responsible also. And I think we, as an individual person, you really have to do something. It's already 12:05, It's really, you really have to react now. That's what we are trying to do, basically. And what a lot of artists we work with try to do. Together, we create a project which hopefully can make a little bit of difference.
Thinking about that in the context of this show, will there be parallel talks, presentations, events with the goal of raising awareness and getting people to think about their own behavior and maybe change for the better?
The first project Hannah and me did together was an event program, what I told you, and this program was interdisciplinary. Mm-hmm. So what we did was we invited not only curators, gallerists to come to the graduate exhibition, but also like some scientists, and people from very different backgrounds. We thought about like some topics, of the graduate exhibition. And then we had those talks. We developed the walk the talk format. And that's what we still do. And we also will do now for the Zero Waste show. So of course, it is a contemporary art show, what we are doing. Yeah. And that's also important for us. And it's important for the artists that it is contemporary art. It's not a scientific exhibition. It is a show in a big museum of fine arts. We speak with the arts, but also we have this event program, and we also work with some local partners. For example, in Leipzig, there's a repair cafe, and they will do a repair cafe in the exhibition, so people can come there, and instead of buying something new, like there will be experts helping them to repair things, and we will have some DIY workshops and things like that also.
You mentioned you were doing programs parallel, thinking in terms of an exhibition. And I mean, we've tried to do it with the gallery, but it's always, I think it's difficult planning with time, getting people together, especially in Berlin, because there's always 10 other things you could be doing. Rather than the exhibition being the end point, it's almost the starting point. So you have the exhibition, but then from that initiates a dialogue, or that asks questions so that people can either get direct connection with the artist, with the work, and then maybe like new ideas are brought to them rather than going to the show and that being where it stops. In a sense, that's almost like where it starts for the audience, perhaps.
Definitely. I think the art outreach program and art mediation always is a part I'm thinking of from the beginning when I plan an exhibition, because it's so important to think, okay, what people will come to the exhibition? What do they expect? What events can we offer? We are very lucky now to be in Leipzig, of course, because it's, as you said, in Berlin, you have a lot of concurrence. Of course, I mean, there are like loads of events, and in Leipzig, maybe it's a little bit easier. And also, it is in a big museum, and our Walk the Talk, it will be on the same time they have usually the guided tours.
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
And so I think this is really great. And then also of the team of the Kunstvermittlung outreach, they help us a lot, and they will be there and, contextualize everything. And of course, we are very lucky.
I remember years ago when I went to Dusseldorf and I met with some different institutes and with smaller galleries, and I think, because they're still cities, Leipzig is still a city, but
of course,
because it's a smaller community, you know that if I'm not doing it, then no one's going to do it. And everybody often bands together. Whereas I think for better or worse, we get a bit spoilt sometimes in Berlin. You're like, oh, I can just go to that, or it'll be on for longer, or there's something else to go and see.
And then it's over.
Yeah, and then you miss it. So that's always the downside. Actually, I always forget. How far is Leipzig from Berlin?
It's very close. It's just like 1 hour and 15 minutes by train.
Yeah.
For us, it's amazing because I think a lot of people from Berlin will also come to the opening and also to come and see the exhibition. It's also great because we think this zero waste, it's not only the topic of the show, but we think it as a whole concept. We try to avoid as much as possible like the material for the artworks. For example, we show a video in a projection of Mika Rottenberg, and she is famous for her like huge installations, video installations. And Mika and we decided together to only show the video and not build something new for the exhibition. Then some other objects that it was like a sculpture who was in Australia, for example, we won't show it because otherwise we would have transported it. There are some other transports we avoided for the show, and we work with Andreas Greiner, the artist, and he is, since a few years, he's working on some projects with trees and the forest. And for our exhibition, he will calculate the CO2 footprint of the exhibition, the flights, train, everything like material. He will calculate everything, and then we will try to compensate it by planting trees with his artistic project. And I think it would be great to inspire also other institutions, because of course you can do a show about sustainability and about zero waste, but what do you do yourself, also not in your private life, but in the professional life.
Exactly.
And the institutions, they make exhibitions, for example, and then they throw all the material just away after the exhibition. And what happens to all the material? For example, we have been now in Leipzig several times and asked them what we can use for our exhibitions, if they can like keep something for us, which we can use for other installations, or maybe like build a plinth, or we can use plinths, which they already have, or things like that, just small things.
I guess it's out of the ordinary. Like, it's not extreme. You kind of think in practical terms, why don't we do this more often?
Exactly.
With exhibitions and with events and with so many things, even if the message is, let's reduce our waste, the event itself creates a lot of waste. And you kind of think, are we missing the irony here with how much we're championing what we're doing? But we're part of the problem. Yeah. And until you can, I guess, set a good example or find ways of conveying the message that support the message.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, without seeing it and hearing the planning and the insight, the zero waste walks the talk by saying, well, we're talking about this, but look, we're actually doing it, and this is how we've reduced our carbon footprint or our environmental impact.
Of course, and you always have to find a balance, I mean, zero waste is impossible, of course. Zero is impossible, but we also decided to have some flights. For example, 2 artists to come from Indonesia, and they are also coming to Leipzig. But we organized that all the artists who come from abroad and who needs to have a long distance flight, that they have other projects in Germany or maybe Europe, so that nobody comes only for our exhibition. And I think this is also a way, because I think, of course, you can have a Skype interview or something, but I think it's not the same. And I think it's very important to have the discussion in person, and to exchange. For us, it was very important to have like international artists in the boat who also live in different parts of the world, because the waste problem is different in Indonesia, for example, than in Germany, or it's different in South Africa. For example, Viva Galodra lives in New Delhi in India, and she told us that her family and her friends and she herself, they have all really severe health problems because of the particulate matters in the air, because of the smog and the dust problems in New Delhi. Yeah. It's really a huge problem. Lucky us, it's not that a big problem here in Berlin. And she also reflects on those problems in her work. And so this is really great that we can have really the discussion in Leipzig together. And so I mean, we could have said, okay, we won't pay any flights, but you know, I think this makes sense.
You need, exactly. You need to have a trade-off. You can't just think we'll do nothing.
Yeah, and we didn't want to exclude the people who don't live in Leipzig or Berlin. Also, you know, you have to find a balance. But I think it's always like that, you know, when, for example, some people, they try to avoid flying 10 times a year, and other people maybe live vegan, and other people do something else, but it's impossible to be perfect. And of course, the politics have to do something. Of course, every single one can do something, but the responsibility is also somewhere else. Yeah.
Definitely, I think things need to come from a policy level. I guess from a top down, the government do need to guide people and be good role models. But I mean, you mentioned veganism. Like, my wife and I are vegan since, I always forget when now, a few years, maybe 4 or 5 years. I can't remember exactly when it was. And maybe just because of how our personalities are and our thinking, that once we know this is the way that something is, I can't unknow that information now. I have to change my behavior. Like, the classic excuse, I think, with recycling is people go, oh, but, you know, this big company, they deposit this amount of waste into the ocean, or they burn all this stuff. So what difference does it make if I split up my rubbish into the different coloured bins? Rather than looking at it like that, I'd rather think, I know that I'm not part of the problem. I know that I'm doing as much as I can, even if all these other industries and other people are doing it. I think if enough people in the population or the general public are making a difference, then it incentivizes larger companies to do something, because they realize when people make decisions about things, they make decisions with when they spend money. Even thinking about, in the time that I've lived in Berlin, you can get Lidl and Aldi, like the cheap supermarkets, you can get vegan products. Like, it's not just you have to go to the Bierladen or you have to go to one of the posh supermarket that's got everything that's ecological and locally sourced. Should you be making the right decisions? And of course, at Lidl and those places, maybe it isn't the best, but even the fact that a lot of the products that they stock now, they have like the V on them, and they say, yeah, this is vegan, this is vegan. It shows that companies are recognizing that people make decisions based on whether it's vegan or if it's not vegan, or if it's fair trade or not fair trade. For the most part, people probably still, this one's €5, this one's 3. I'll get the one that's 3 because it's cheaper. But more people, I think, now are deciding based on, am I going to feel okay about this being shipped from South America, from somewhere I don't know about, or do I want to get the ones that are grown around the corner, even if I have to pay an extra €2?
Sometimes it's also difficult to decide, of course, because sometimes you have to decide, okay, do I buy the organic tomatoes which are grown in Spain, for example, under like huge amounts of plastic, or do I buy the non-organic tomatoes which are grown around the corner? You know, like things like that. It's very difficult. But I think what you mentioned before, that people think that they cannot make a difference, I think you just have to imagine if like millions of people decide, okay, I won't buy, for example, this coffee to go or something. Yeah. If it's millions that make these decisions, it's millions cups which you avoid. Of course, it makes a difference. Of course, it makes a difference. And as I said, it's not possible to be perfect.
No. I remember once when we were at dinner, I guess as a vegan, you come up against this where people go, oh, do you want to try the cake or whatever? And you're like, no, it's okay, I don't want to have anything. And they keep pushing and pushing. You're like, okay, look, I'm a vegan, I can't eat it for that reason. And then, oh, you're drinking wine. Is that wine vegan? Okay, I'm 95%, or I'm almost doing everything that I can.
That's whataboutism.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about the wine? Yeah.
And I think the thing is, when people go, oh, but you're not being completely sustainable, it's like, well, I don't live in a sustainable world. Like, there's only so many things that I can do.
And it's okay. And I think it has so much to do with the things you're used to do, you know. For example, I'm just used to have my own bottle, for example, with me, or just like a small bag in case I want to buy something, a bread or whatever.
Yeah, same.
I just have the bag, you know. I just have it always in my rucksack with me, you know. Things like that. I think it's just those small things. You just remember to take your whatever, like your glasses or your mobile phone, and also the bag and the bottle.
Yeah, exactly. It's more to do with, I was going to say with Gewöhnlichkeit, but what is it in English?
Gewohnheit.
Yeah, with what you're used to doing.
Okay, now I only can think of the Spanish word. Costumbre.
Yeah, with your daily routines and things that you're doing. Because I think I remember for me, there was one point when I was cooking once and I'd made a soup. And this was before we were vegan. I think maybe we were vegetarian. I was part-time vegetarian. Like I'd made a mushroom soup. Before I put the milk in, I thought, oh, it's vegan now. But in my mind, it wasn't finished until I added milk to it. And then once you kind of get over that psychological barrier, you're like, well, actually, it's okay. Like you don't need to add that to it.
Yeah, and I think once you start to live vegan, you know, there are some people who think, okay, you can only eat salad or something, but it's not like that. You can eat like loads of stuff. I think, and that's really great living in Berlin, because everywhere you can have such a great vegan food, and yeah, it's amazing. I love that. Actually, we also have an artwork in our exhibition which is related to this topic, like veganism. Bianca Kennedy and the Swan Collective, they did this virtual reality piece. They created like a future scenario where bugs are the food for us, you know, like loads of bugs. Have you heard about it? Yeah. And in this virtual reality experience, you are a bug yourself.
Oh, really?
You know, you look through the eyes of the bug and you move and you get swallowed by a human being. And and then the bugs were asking, okay, but why can not a whale, you know, like such a big animal cannot be the food, and why us, you know, like millions of us? And they start a kind of fight and things, and you can see that in our show.
How did you, sorry, I guess getting back to the art, now we're talking about, global problems, but how did you select the artists? Was it ones within your existing network, or you knew where you're going to look for people looking at specific topics or themes? Because you already mentioned someone's coming from Indonesia, there's somebody from Cape Town or from South Africa. Did you intentionally want people from different cultural backgrounds in different parts of the world when you were curating the show?
Yes. In this case, yes, because it totally makes sense. It's a global topic. Okay, we started with some artists we already knew, mainly from Berlin. We had some studio visits and talked to some artists about what works could fit in the topic, or what would they like to develop for the show. Some artists are also developing some site-specific works. And then we did a lot of research also. For example, the South African artist, he is a photographer and he's very young. I was actually in Cape Town a few years ago and went to the graduate exhibition of the art school there in Cape Town and saw the work. And I remembered it and I thought, okay, maybe it would be great to have a very, very young artist from South Africa in the show.
But I guess when you saw his work, you didn't know yet where you wanted to put it.
No.
I think just as a side note, it's probably also good for artists to realize that when a curator or a gallerist sees their work and it's like, I need to find the right place for this. Because I'd had the experience with people from portfolio reviews that I'd seen, or I'd seen a really great project. It's like, I want to show this, but I don't know yet where I can show it. And then it's like 2 or 3 years later, and then you kind of write an email or phone them up and go, oh, guess what? I've got the perfect position to show this work.
Definitely.
And so that was the case with the young artists from South Africa.
Exactly. And then some other artists also, for example, the artists from Indonesia. Actually, Dita Salina had a work at the Hamburger Bahnhof show I was involved with, and I just spoke to her, and it really fits in our concepts, you know, coincidentally a little bit also. And it is a video work. And, you know, they are from Indonesia, and actually those are the ones who have a big sculpture also. So we decided only to show the video work. And for us, it's actually only possible to show the video because otherwise we would have made a transport, and that's what we want to avoid.
It would also be quite expensive, I imagine, if you're shipping a sculpture from Indonesia.
Of course. I mean, it's quite expensive. That's a discussion we had a lot of times in the past months with artists who say, okay, yeah, I'm actually avoiding waste because of the precarious lifestyle, kind of, you know? I mean, it's like that also. But of course, some artists are also very conscious, but sometimes you also avoid material or transports because you cannot afford it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's just not an option.
Yeah, but for example, Raoul Walch, he's an artist who works mainly with textiles. One of the reasons he works with textiles is because even a huge sculpture or installation, he just can put like in a small box and take it with him in the train. He has worked in Almeria in Spain. There's like huge plantages out of plastic where the vegetables grow also for Germany. And it's huge. It's a country out of plastic, kind of. He collected a lot of material, like different plastics and nets, and he also spent time there, and he said it's everywhere. It's like flying around you, like hanging in the bushes, flying into the sea, you know, and he will, he's building a mobile now for one of the 14-meter high terraces in the museum. We're looking forward to it.
So how much have you got to do still?
So let me think. Yeah, we are working on the catalog. All the money we get will... sorry, ich weiß gerade nicht, wie ich das auf Englisch sagen soll. All the money we receive for the catalog will go into the project of Andreas Greiner, who will calculate the carbon footprint of the show and who will plant trees. This is a lot of work because we have to write lots of texts and work with the graphic designers on the catalog. And the catalog will be published shortly after the opening because we really want to have installation shots in the catalog. So this is one thing. Then we still have to organize the program. I mean, there are some events are set, but some still are not set. And yeah, I think then the next step is also the transport and setting up the exhibition. And I'm really looking forward to it. I love setting up exhibitions.
Yeah.
I think it's so great when you've worked like for years or like months on a project and then finally you can see the end result. I'm really looking forward to it. But also for the site-specific works.
I guess till now they've not been realised. How many of those are there?
In total?
Yeah.
Okay, we have
Totally,
21 artists,
yeah.
but there are 3 duos, so 18 positions. Most of the artists at least have 2, 3 or 4 works. So I think it's 900 square meters. It's huge.
Wow.
It's on, the exhibition will be on 2 floors. One space will be a black box with 3 video works. But we don't have that much time, actually, only a few days to set up everything. So we have to be really organized. But I will be in Leipzig the whole time.
Yeah, and you'll have a team, I guess, building and everything as well.
Definitely, yeah. Nearly all the artists will be there for setting up the exhibition.
How long does the show go for?
3 months, until the 21st of June.
Cool. All right, thanks a lot, Lena. This was really nice to chat and to learn more about what you're doing. You should do it
Thank you.
again sometimes.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll still have an opportunity to see Zero Waste in the not too distant future. I'd recommend following their Instagram feed at Zero Waste Exhibition, which is all one word, and the hashtag MDBK0Waste for updates. It's possible that the museum will be organising a live chat online with Lena, Hannah, and potentially one or more of the participating artists. But as nothing is confirmed, you'll have to follow the social media to find out when this will ultimately take place. Obviously, it's a difficult and complicated time for everyone right now. However, the exhibition team are doing what they can under the circumstances to bring the art and important message to the audiences around the world. If nothing else, I really hope this episode has provided some temporary relief from what's going on right now. Who knows what the situation will be like in a few weeks or even tomorrow. I just hope everyone's taken the necessary precautions to flatten the curve, that you're looking out for one another, and above all, staying inside. This is actually episode 20 of Subtext and Discourse, so thanks everyone who's participated so far, and of course everyone who's joined us along the way. Until next time, my name's Michael Dooney, stay healthy and take care.